Getting a dog means locking in your daily routine, your budget, and your living arrangements for the next 10 to 15 years. When that relationship breaks down, when a dog destroys furniture or ends up surrendered to a shelter, it almost always traces back to a mismatch between what the dog needs and what the owner can actually provide. Most people fall into the aesthetic trap. They choose a breed based solely on physical appearance or its current popularity on social media. But every purebred dog you see today was historically engineered to perform a highly specific job. They arrive hardwired with specific physical drives and mental instincts. If you ignore that genetic hardwiring, your home is going to become a constant friction zone rather than a sanctuary. The Kennel Club organizes these genetic traits into 7 historic breed categories, ranging from working dogs to hounds. To evaluate breed fit, look at this quadrant chart plotting available free time against a dog's energy needs. If you combine a low-energy lifestyle with a high-needs dog, you land right here in the disaster zone. Avoiding that zone requires a 15-year reality audit. Calculate your living space, your hours away from home, and your disposable budget. Perfectly matching your human lifestyle inputs to a dog's genetic outputs is the single greatest predictor of a successful relationship. Let's start with the highest input categories, the pastoral and working groups. These animals were engineered for intense physical labor, massive stamina, and guarding. Pastoral breeds, like the Border Collie, require intense, continuous mental and physical stimulation just to satisfy their herding heritage. Working breeds demand vast physical space and a highly confident handler, primarily due to their massive size and deeply ingrained guardian instincts. The lifestyle trade-offs here are extreme. As an owner, you must provide over 2 hours of intense daily exercise, and you have to sustain high food and veterinary budgets. If you fail to provide these dogs with a job, they will invent one. That usually results in severe destructive behaviors inside your home. Pastoral and working dogs are not casual pets. They require owners who treat dog ownership as their primary daily hobby. On the other side of the spectrum is the gun dog group, defined by an extreme eagerness to please and high trainability. Historically, their utility relied on working in constant, close partnership with humans to retrieve game. That extreme genetic bonding creates their primary trade-off. Gun dogs are highly susceptible to separation anxiety if left alone during a standard 9-to-5 workday. They make the ultimate family companion, but only if your household has the time to provide constant daily social integration. Hounds and terriers are the autonomous problem solvers of the canine world. Their genetic hardwiring is designed to track scents or hunt vermin completely independent of human direction. Living with them requires managing specific behaviors. They are frequently highly vocal, prone to destructive digging, and notoriously difficult off-leash. Because of their ingrained prey drive, they also pose a specific environmental risk to smaller household pets. Hounds and terriers reward owners who value independence and can strictly manage an environment, rather than owners seeking blind obedience. Finally, we have the toy and utility breeds. These are animals engineered specifically for indoor companionship and aesthetic value. Toy breeds were historically bred to be low-energy status symbols. This makes them uniquely suited for constrained living spaces. This bar chart compares their lifetime maintenance. Notice that while their daily exercise requirements are very low, their grooming and veterinary costs sit exceptionally high. They cannot participate in strenuous outdoor activities. Furthermore, long-coated or flat-faced variants carry massive lifetime financial budgets to maintain their health. These breeds are perfect for time-poor urbanites who are willing to trade financial resources for a flawless, low-energy apartment match. To filter out incompatible breeds, we synthesize all these variables into a lifestyle matrix. Look at this comparison matrix plotting personal constraints, apartment living, 9 to 5 hours, exercise capacity, and budget against historic breed categories. Highlighting apartment and low exercise immediately crosses out pastoral and working groups. Conversely, a house, high activity, and family match cleanly with gun dogs. Using this matrix removes dangerous emotional biases from your search, leaving you with a list of only genetically compatible options. We can turn this matrix into a definitive decision path to help you find your exact owner archetype. This flowchart starts with your physical space. Mapping apartment down to strict 9 to 5 forms the time-poor urbanite path, terminating at toy and utility breeds. With a yard, the path splits. First-time owners land on gun dogs, while highly active owners can manage pastoral and working breeds. The objectively best dog breed simply does not exist. Success only comes by choosing the breed whose historic job description aligns flawlessly with your current daily life. We naturally organize the animal kingdom into neat, distinct boxes. We look at a golden retriever and a Great Dane, and we assume those physical differences represent an objective, hardwired biological boundary. We rely on specific, often extreme traits to define what makes an animal pure, like the hairless, wrinkled skin of a Sphinx cat, a look that has no biological counterpart in a typical barn cat. But the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization points out a surprising fact. Across all of science, there is no single accepted biological definition for what actually constitutes a breed. A breed is really a term of art. It's a social consensus. A specific group of animals belongs to a breed simply because a group of human breeders agreed that it does. There is no DNA test that objectively proves an animal's purity without that human agreement. Even the U.S. Department of Agriculture refuses to officially recognize cattle breeds as distinct biological entities. If a breed lacks an objective biological reality, then the concept of a purebred is a human invention, and that means somewhere had to invent the rules. For most of history, livestock populations shifted gradually in response to their environments and random mating. That changed in the 18th century, as open plains were sectioned off by wooden fences, allowing humans to physically isolate specific animals and dictate their reproduction. An English agriculturalist named Robert Bakewell pioneered this strategy. He began selecting the most useful animals he could find and congregating them into tightly closed breeding groups, cutting off outside genetic influence. These initial animals became known as foundation stock. The goal was to force their specific traits to pass predictably to every generation, a process known as breeding true. When a group of these animals gained enough popularity, breeders would establish a registry or herd book to track their ancestry. That paperwork, not a genetic milestone, is the exact moment a new breed is officially born. By replacing natural selection with registered fenced-in line breeding, humans transformed wild populations of animals into carefully engineered proprietary products. Because humans wrote the rules for these registries, they can also bend them. One of the most common shortcuts is a mathematical loophole known as upgrading. In a generational tree, you breed an unknown animal with a purebred to get a 1/2 pure offspring. You cross again to reach 3/4, then 7/8. Here, the math is rewritten. The association arbitrarily declares that offspring to be 100% purebred. Breeders use this fluid definition to engineer animals for environments where standard livestock would fail. To survive the heat and humidity of the American South, ranchers imported Bos indicus cattle from the Indian subcontinent, selecting for physical adaptations, like a prominent hump and loose, heat-dissipating skin. On the King Ranch in Texas, breeders intentionally crossed those heat-tolerant Brahmins with beef-heavy English Shorthorns to design an animal tailored to the brush country. The result was the Santa Gertrudis breed, tracing back to a single engineered foundation sire named Monkey. The ability to upgrade fractional genetics and invent entirely new registry formulas demonstrates that genetic purity is not a rigid biological law. It is a flexible tool used to solve specific environmental and economic problems. Early breeders obsessed over maintaining rigid uniformity, but modern agriculture has shifted its focus away from how an animal looks on paper and toward how it actually performs in the field. This diagram illustrates a core scientific concept called heterosis, commonly known as hybrid vigor. When you cross two distinct genetic lineages, the resulting offspring often experience a measurable boost to their health, fertility, and growth rate. To capitalize on this, agriculturalists developed composite breeds, permanently locking in that performance advantage without needing to constantly recross. A breed is ultimately a living genetic snapshot. It reflects exactly what humans needed at a specific time and place, whether that was an animal built to survive the blistering Texas heat or one designed to plow heavy European soil. The label of purebred is an illusion, a human consensus built on paperwork rather than a rigid biological law. But recognizing it as a tool reveals the actual achievement, our ability to precisely steer animal genetics to match the demands of a changing world.